about something fun. Coming up tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut. Ricky Rotundo and myself will be talking auto racing with the host of Motor Week Live, Patrick Reynolds. And later on in the show, we'll talk to a driver that races on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, and he also campaigns in SK Modified at the Stafford Motor Speedway, Glen, Reen. And our third guest coming up tonight also races on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, and will also be doing some Volante Modified racing in the 2014 season. Timmy Solomitto will join us a little bit later on in this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. The YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, he's also on hand, and we'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320. We are streaming live on WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all shows are archived. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2014, and Speedway Line Report Radio is headed your way right now.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
The green flag is in the air, and it's time for the Speedway Live Report, presented by Shaler Acura of Manchester, broadcasting from our WATR studios in Waterbury, Connecticut, and streaming live around the world. It's 90 minutes of auto racing news. Now, here's your host.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. Gary Danko right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. He's also the crew chief on Eric Byrne's SK Modified that they race over at the Stafford Motor Speedway, and he is also going to be on the War Wagon with Timmy Solomitto on the Volante Modified Racing Series. We'll talk to Ricky more about that coming up. 203-757-1320. We talk auto racing on Monday nights here at WATR 1320. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
and your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Well, Ricky, busy week of auto racing, Stafford Motor Speedway. They had the Volante Modified Racing Series on hand along with their regular divisions. And of course, I was at the Waterford Speed Bowl on Saturday. The weather was fantastic, great racing. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Well, let's first talk about everything at Stafford Motor Speedway on Friday evening. Let's talk about Eric Byrne and that SK Modified.
In the SK Modified, we were at the beginning of the race. We were just too free, and it seemed like everybody really was. It was actually a difficult night for the track conditions, and some people hit right on, and most of the guys that have been doing well the past few weeks actually were all off. So it was just one of the nights, you know, a lot of the guys missed, and because we pulled down pit lane, Priest pulled down pit lane. There was a bunch of guys that ended up just coming in because they were just too free. They weren't gonna. You gotta go out there and just with a chance, and we ended up getting back up to 5th place. So we were pretty happy with that. Turned a bad night into something at least positive. So that was good for us, and it was good to see Chase Dowling there. And a lot of people, I talked to a few people after the race. They're like, "Oh, the kid started on the pole." I'm like, I don't believe he started on the pole. He passed cars to get to the lead, and he held off the challenge. He only slipped up one time, but the caution helped him out there and put Kobe right back behind him, and that was it. He learned his lesson. He was a quick learner because that didn't happen again the rest of the night.
Right, 16 years old and drives his SK Modified to the winner's circle. When you beat drivers like Woody Pitcat, Dan Avery, and Doug Colby, and Eric Byrne, you've done something right.
Yeah, I mean, that was like Avery was on the battling for second place, was on the outside of him, and the kid battled back from that. Kobe got under, got actually just by him once, but the caution came out, but didn't get back by him again. And then at the end there, Woody was trying to give him a challenge, and the kid didn't. He didn't rattle the kid. He stayed nice and calm and brought it in victory lane. Yeah, his first year in an SK Modified over at Stafford Motor Speedway. He's been a guest here on Speedway Line Report Radio earlier in the year, and certainly, as I mentioned, got a ton of talent
and I think you're going to see this driver in the future rattle off a lot of victories, not only over at Stafford Motor Speedway, but wherever he decides to race, Rick.
Yeah, the kid's a talent. There's no doubt about it.
So, once again, 203-757-1320. We're all set to talk auto racing tonight with our scheduled guest, Timmy Solomitto, who's a rookie contender on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. As I mentioned, he's also going to run on the Valente Modified Racing Series in some races. And Ricky, you're going to be the crew chief, and you were actually the crew chief on Friday evening over at Stafford where the Valente Modified Racing Series raced.
Yeah, we actually had a good draw to get the tires, and that was very good for us because we had to get more tires because we didn't have any to start with. So it was kind of critical that we got at least a little bit of an earlier number, so our backup tires were at least close to the match for our other tires. So we were pretty good with that there. Like I said, the track was a little tricky. I tightened up the car a little bit more than I normally would have, and it still wasn't enough. So we were a little bit free. Ended up getting in 12th. We probably only had enough for a few more spots because we're trying to run the Tour motor, and the Tour motor at these half-mile to 5/8 tracks, they're not enough compared to the steel-headed motors. The steel-headed motors should have just a little bit of an edge still coming off the corner. They got the big burst coming off the corner, and you can't do anything with that because then down the straightaway they got that little bit more where they can get underneath you, and once they get underneath you, you don't want to crowd and stuff like that. So Timmy drove a great race. Everybody on the crew, John Lucas Savage and Cuneo, they were happy with everything that happens. All the crew guys, Glenn, Eric, Al, and I can't even name all. There were so many guys that were there trying to help out and everything else, and it was all in all, it was a pretty good first maiden voyage for the car back out on the track with the owner, new driver, new crew, and everything else. So it was definitely a solid performance for what we were doing. So.
And the driver that won Friday night on the Valente Modified Racing Series, congratulations in order to Todd Zegedy, who joined us back here a few weeks ago on Speedway Line Report Radio. So once again, congratulations to Todd and that whole race team, and of course Billy Bear Colicchio, who is the crew chief. Congratulations to him as well.
Yeah, that car was stout. There was no doubt about it. I mean, you watched partially, way through the race, and Teddy was right there. You wondered how much Keith had left in his tank, and did he save enough tire? And the last 20 laps, Todd flipped the switch and just got out in front and said, "See you guys later."
And you knew that they were due for a win.
Oh, they've been running strong all year. All year, Bear and Todd really are meshing together really well with that whole deal, and it's good for them guys. I mean, congratulations to Todd and Bear and everybody on that team. They did a great job. That car was awesome. And
they're leading the point standings. So
they're leading in the points on that
yes.
now? Oh, good for them.
So that's all good. And of course, Bear has been on this radio show many times as my co-host, and he's joined us many times, and we've always got the Bear facts from Bear. He said he will be making some appearances on Speedway Line Report Radio in 2014, but of course there's a lot of times that he is not in this area because of where they keep the race car.
Yeah, it would be a long haul for him to try to go back and forth for that deal there.
Exactly. So why don't we take our first commercial break, and when we come back we're going to talk to a gentleman who has his own radio show. He is the host of Motor Week Live, Patrick Reynolds. He'll join us next.
Market for a new Acura? There's only one place to go. Shaler Acura in Manchester.
Hear anything about the guys that
Shaler
Chris ran over?
First Acura dealer. Shaler offers the area's best selection of new and pre-owned Acuras.
Mics are hot. Yeah, mics are cold.
Also offers extended hours for parts and service. Open until 8 o'clock Monday through Thursday, until 4 o'clock on Saturday. Come to Shaler Acura, 345 Central,
79 or 16.
or visit them on the web at ShalerAcura.com.
I didn't see the video.
Nowhere else but
Did you see the video on that?
Yeah.
It was a 79, right?
79
Or 16?
Oh, geez, I can't remember, but I seen it. Run the guy over.
Yeah, I heard it was Priest.
Oh,
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I have no clue whatsoever.
Yeah, because it was on Facebook.
Because somebody got out in front and then the car went up and over.
Went up and over and pushed the person into the garbage can and into the Jersey barrier there. But, you know, some scrapes and bangs, but nothing serious, which it could have been a lot worse.
On the Speedway line
All right, as soon as we come back, we're going to get him.
WATR management and staff.
Oh, yeah.
Your management and staff of the Speedway line or vintagemodifieds.com.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko right alongside the Rocket. Our first guest of the evening is going to be coming up in just a minute or two, Patrick Reynolds. He watched his first auto race in 1976 at the age of 7 and instantly fell in love with the sport. And we're going to find out a lot about Patrick and a lot about his show, which comes up at 7 o'clock. Once again, he is the host of Motor Week Live. So if you've never tuned in, make sure that you tune in to Motor Week Live and find out a lot more about Patrick Reynolds and the guests that he has on. I know there's been many of guests from the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour that have joined Patrick over the years. So make sure you tune in and find out more about Motor Week Live with Patrick Reynolds. The number that you need tonight here on Speedway Line Report Radio, 203-757-1320, 203-757-1320. We do stream live at WATR.com, and you can also catch us by going to SpeedwayLineReport.com, where former modified driver Tom Ormsby, the webmaster of that site, gets my show up onto his site, Ricky, and a lot of people also go there as well. Of course, Robert Baggett, the YouTube guy, has been very helpful in 2014 by coming in so far every week and getting the stuff up on YouTube. We appreciate everything that he does. Our first guest of the evening, he is all set to go. He's strapped in, and now he joins us, Patrick Reynolds from Motor Week Live. Patrick, how are you tonight? I'm doing very well for Monday night. I know you're going to be getting ready to roll at 7 o'clock. Before we get involved with you, who are your guests on your show tonight?
Tonight we are talking to Mike Parks from the Granite State Pro Stock Series. He's got a big race coming up at Star Speedway in New Hampshire, and he will be our guest tonight, as well as any audience members that would like to call in. But Mike Parks will be the featured guest on Motor Week Live tonight.
Great. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned right before you came on, your first race was in June of '76 at the Danbury Race Arena. And what was that like, that first night going to short track racing and get to see race cars go around a track?
Love at first sight. I was 7 years old, and to this day I can remember the colors, the noise, the smell of the racing fuel, and that was the fairgrounds. So the fried dough always brings me back to the Danbury Fairgrounds and the race arena and the summertime stock car races. And I remember being 7 years old and just having the cars come out of the pit gate off of turn 4 and just see they were still under caution. They hadn't even warmed up yet, and I saw the colors and the cars and I heard the noise, and something in my head clicked and said, I want to do this the rest of my life, and I have, pretty much.
Now, you're originally from Connecticut, where?
New Milford is my hometown, about a half hour north of Danbury.
Okay, so, and I believe at one point you actually worked with Jimmy Broderick.
Yes, I did. That was probably the first race car I actually got my hands dirty on. It was the late 80s. I was just either in high school or just out of high school. He was driving for Donnie Goodell on the old Circle Asphalt number 40. After Danbury had closed, Jimmy had went up to the new SK Modified division. Well, not new anymore. That was the early 80s. But by the late 80s, he was racing the Stafford, Waterford, Thompson tri-track circuit, and that was the first race car I touched with a wrench and got some grease under my fingernails.
Now, what did you do when you were up here and you were working with Jimmy Broderick? What type of work were you doing then?
Still getting dirt under my fingernails during the day as well. I went to the Porter and Chester Technical Institute in Watertown, got a degree in automotive technology, and I worked in car dealerships as an auto mechanic for many years. So that was the day job for a lot, and Jimmy was the first modified I had touched. That was the nighttime work and the weekend work, and it went from there for various teams on the dirt and pavement side of the modified world in the Northeast.
do you have a favorite, Patrick? Is it dirt or is it asphalt?
Boy, that's a good question. I figure on a rainy Saturday afternoon when you still race that Saturday night, I want to go pavement race because the pits are a quagmire. But I didn't see my first dirt race, I think, until the mid '80s. So it's been about 10 years of nothing but pavement racing. And I'll tell you what, competition-wise, side-by-side racing, there is some fantastic dirt racing out there when the track's prepared right. So I know that's not a commitment answer that you're looking for, but yeah, I don't think I could pick between the two.
We're talking with Patrick Reynolds. He's the host of Motor Week Live. Our number here is 203-757-1320. I'm Gary Denker, right alongside with Rocket Rick Rotundo, my co-host.
Yeah, I was just listening to what you were saying there about you really started in the late 80s, because I've been around racing my whole life also, and my family drove, because the first time I touched the car was in '93, and that's when my Uncle John Anderson drove at Stafford Speedway.
Gosh, I remember J.A. driving up there, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, John's my uncle, and that was the first time I ever turned a wrench on cars. I mean, watched him drive ever since I was a little kid. My father actually drove when I was a real young kid. But I mean, it was, you know, racing just forever for me. But '93 was the first time I ever touched a wrench on a car.
I feel blessed to have been alive when I was and got to see what many consider the glory days of modified racing. I was a member of the Richie Evans fan club. I saw him, Bouchard, Bugsy Stevens, Freddie DeSero, Maynard Troyer, George Kent, the legends, the people we consider now the legends and sort of the Hall of Fame members of modified racing. Anyway, I got to see those guys race, and as a little kid, I guess I was under the impression, like we all are, we didn't grasp the fact that life does change, and I just thought what I saw every week was going to continue forever, and reality has set in, and a lot has changed in the modified world, but I feel really blessed to be alive when I was and be able to see that core group of modified heroes and superstars race when I did.
Yeah, it's just what you're saying, because that's when I was really starting to really acknowledge the drivers out there was in the '80s. And that's when all the cream of the crop drivers, like you were saying, that were racing back then. That's like on a regular Friday night, you saw, Reggie Ruggiero, Fuller, Wayne Dion. You saw all these guys just racing just at the regular track on a Friday night at Stafford Speedway.
And go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to mention that I went to Danbury for so many years, and the first race I saw outside of the race arena was the Thompson 300 in 1976. Jeff Bodheim was driving for Dick Armstrong, and he just mowed the field down, and that really opened up my eyes as to how good professional modified drivers were compared to the Danbury race arena. Although they were my heroes, members of the Southern New York Racing Association, the guys that drove the NASCAR modifieds at Thompson and Stafford were just something to behold back in those days.
And Patrick, you grew up going to the Danbury race arena, where my brother and I, we grew up going to the Plainville Stadium. So I got to see Reggie at a young age, and Stan Greger, and Jap Membrino, and Lou Carangelo, and Ronnie Rocco, and Stan Greger. The list goes on and on of drivers that went through the turnstiles over there at the Plainville Stadium. And of course, that was sad when Plainville closed, but then me and my brother kind of branched out and started going to Riverside Park Speedway in '74, and of course I became a big fan of Bob Pulverary up at Riverside, and followed his career, and then we started branching out and we went to Stafford. And when I first went to Stafford in 1975, and I remember I was used to seeing a racetrack like Plainville and Riverside. Well, Stafford Motor Speedway was the first half-mile speedway that I ever saw, and I was amazed at what I saw, and and the speeds, and it was just incredible. And then from there we went to Thompson, and then the story goes on and on and on.
They look like Talladega to a young kid when you first see them. I remember Thompson had the sandbanks.
Sure.
The only retaining wall was just down the front stretch. And that place might as well have been compared to Talladega to me. I just saw Danbury, which was a third mile, pretty flat, and Thompson had a 5/8 mile with a steep banking at whatever it is, 12 or 14 degrees, and that was all 7 years old. That was a different universe, never mind a different racetrack. But the sight to behold, and I'm glad I did when I did.
And did you have a favorite driver back then, whether it was Danbury or when you branched out to other racetracks?
Yeah, I had three: the local, the regional, and the national. My local hero at Danbury was Kenny Webb. My father was a sponsor and pit crew member on his car. That's what introduced me to racing back in the 70s. And regionally, I was a Richie Evans fan. I grew up loving the orange and had an orange hat and an orange T-shirt. And on the national level, I was a Richard Petty man. I had STP logo and proudly wore the 43 back in the day. And I guess that circles back around to what I was saying before. You just thought those days would never end, and they've changed quite a bit since then.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, my brother and I go into short track races with our father, and then of course I really started getting involved in the Cup Series, basically when Ronnie Bouchard and Jeff Bodine had moved on, because you knew those people, and then all of a sudden you say, hey, those are the same guys that we saw race locally, and then go on, and they're on TV now.
Were you listening to CBS, and I say listening to CBS, when Ronnie won Talladega in 1981?
I was, and then all of a sudden it went out.
Yeah, the race too. I remember that story clear as day as well. I stood there in front of the TV, in front of, we had no video, but I listened to the audio call of Ken Squire call Roddy's win back at Talladega. A fond memory and a great story. But yeah, I was a big Ronnie Bouchard fan up here, and I followed him quite heavily back. I even got, I've got a couple of Race Hill Farms T-shirts and even a Hoss Ellington Bullseye barbecue sauce up in my attic from my Ron Bouchard day.
Sure, I mean, going back, Ronnie and Eddie Funky Sr. racing over at Stafford and Thompson, and you mentioned Freddie DeCero, Bugsy Stevens, Leo the Lion Clary, and of course the list just goes on and on of drivers that done so well. I remember when Jeff Bodine got his first NASCAR Sprint Cup Series win, and now he's driving now for All-Star Racing and Rick Hendrick at Martinsville Speedway, and I believe Ronnie Bouchard also had a good run that day.
He finished second.
That's right.
My memory serves.
Right.
In the Race Hill Farm 47 car back in 1984. Jeff Bodine got Rick Hendrick his very first Cup win, and I believe that's Ronnie Bouchard ran second in the 47 Buick.
And how ironic a place that he gets his first win, Patrick, at Martinsville Speedway, where he had so much success, racing modifieds and sportsman cars.
You would think that actually if you picked a place for Bodine to get his first win, it probably would be a track at Martinsville. And I imagine at that point in his career, he had more laps at Martinsville than he had at any other track on the tour, even though he had been around the late model sportsman and Cup circuit for a few years anyway. But probably Martinsville, he had more laps than he had at any other track, and a likely place for him to grab his first win. And just in time, too. Rick was about ready to shut the team down because of lack of money, so timing is everything, as always, in racing.
Exactly, and let's give some credit to Pete Hamilton, who also from up in this neck of the woods, who went and did well, and of course Greg Sachs.
Greg Sachs, you talk of listening. I listened to Greg Sachs win the Firecracker 400 on the radio back in 1985. It was, and he beat, of all people, Bill Elliott that year. And I had Greg on Motor Week Live, my show, just a couple of years ago while he was down in Florida. And what an honor it was for me just to talk to Greg on the phone. I remember him tearing it up in the Wilsburg number 5, where he had an unstoppable year, and the driving the 41 for Cal Smells and the 18X down in Long Island at Riverhead and Islip, and just another Northeast modified guy that made us all proud when he went to NASCAR. We called it Grand National Racing back in the day.
We're talking with Patrick Reynolds. He's the host of Motor Week Live. His show is on Monday nights, coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll spend a few more minutes with Patrick on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. I'm Gary Danko, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo. The YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, is in the house. We'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320, coming up a little bit later on. In the show, we'll talk to a driver that races on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He also runs an SK Modified at Stafford Motor Speedway, Glen, Reen. And coming up just after 7 o'clock, Timmy Solomitto, rookie contender on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We'll talk to him about his races so far in the 2014 season, and he's also going to be doing some races on the Volante Modified Racing Series, and my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo, is the crew chief. on that car. All that and much more on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. Back on with Patrick. And Patrick, let's talk about short track racing. You come, your background is short track racing like mine. Where do you see short track racing going?
I'll be honest with you, not the direction I'm hoping it to be. Too many track operators, and I'll call them track operators and not promoters, really fall into like a little bit of a groove and a rhythm of just opening up the gates and just doing the same thing week after week, year after year with no innovation. And I say that because I live near Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've got a healthy taste of the southern short tracks as well as what I grew up on the tracks in New England. And there is a vast difference between what you see in New England and what you see here in the South. And the good track operators, more promoters, rely heavily on filling the grandstand. That's the point that they need to do, is fill the grandstand. And there's way too many track operators that operate off the back gate mentality and just want that purse or the pit fees to pay the purse, pay the expenses, and kind of open up the gates and shut them down on Saturday night and just keep rolling along. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, and I just remember short track racing, and particularly how we grew up on modified racing, it seemed, maybe I'm looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but it seemed much more healthier with the car counts and the crowd and the affordability for the family to go to a big short track race or even a little short track race. I understand times change, we all have to adapt to that, but I'd like to see short track racing in general try to fill the grandstands first as opposed to last. If you fill the grandstands first, or sell more tickets there, whatever you have to do, then the rest of it seems to fall into place. You can sell sponsorship for your racetrack. You can sell more hot dogs. The racers have a better shot of getting sponsorship for their own cars and having fuller fields if you have full grandstands. That's got to be the number one thing. Maybe you do things a car owner doesn't like. Maybe you do things a driver doesn't like. In reality, I'm sorry, pal, but the first thing you have to do is fill the grandstands. That's where I'd like to see the direction of short track racing go, like when I was a little kid. But there's way too many track operators out there nowadays that just want to kind of jack up the back pit gate, get that cash in hand right there, and just let the show go, and don't really invest and put their heart, soul, and passion because they love short track racing. They really just look at it as a random business and whatever, as opposed to a true racer operating a racetrack and wants to do what's in the best interest of the sport.
You know, Patrick, you bring up a lot of good points, and maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get you on right at 6 o'clock, and we can have, we'll put that as our top topic for that evening, and bring you and get you involved in that. So let's make plans right now to do that. Great. Ricky?
Well, I was just going to feed off what he was saying. I mean, look at Bowman Gray. I mean, you can't get more people in the stands than they do. I mean, they packed that place. They got so many people down there that they had a TV show.
And Patrick, you could probably shed some light on this. Now, does the town own that racetrack? Is there something involved in there? And you're down in that neck of the woods, so you hear a lot of things. And what is the future of Bowman Gray? Because you hear a lot of rumblings that, who knows, maybe 2 to 3 years, that won't be there. Is there any truth to any of that?
I don't believe so. From what I understand, and take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not 100% sure of my information, but I'll tell you what I've read and what I believe, is that the town at one time did own the property and the racetrack, and they wanted to or did sell it to the college that it's attached to, Winston-Salem State University. That's why the Bowman Gray Stadium modified racing season ends so early in mid to late August, because they use that facility for football in the fall, the practice and the games. So part of the lease or the sell agreement from the town to Winston-Salem State University was that racing would continue at Bowman Gray Stadium. And I believe the lease was for Oh gosh, yeah, I'm real fuzzy on the details right now, but I think it was a long time, like say for 50 more years, that racing would continue. So if we want to come back on the show and do a return visit, let me do a little research and be sure of my facts. But what I tell you right now, I'm a little fuzzy on them, but I don't believe racing, Saturday night racing at Bowman Gray Stadium is in any danger, and I think it's going to be around there for years to come.
Right, and we certainly don't want to start any rumors out there that was heard on Speedway Line Report Radio that Bowman Gray was going away. But yeah, we'll when you come back in a few weeks, we'll get a hold of you and we'll be able to give more details on all of that. Let's talk a little about. There's so much to talk to you about. Let's talk about Motor Week Live. First of all, how did you get into the Carolinas, and how did you get going with Motor Week Live?
Well, I'll give you the abbreviated version because it is a little bit lengthy. But I was, like we talked about, I raced a little bit myself in the street stocks at Middletown, New York, and Lebanon Valley on the dirt. I crewed for some dirt modified teams as well as some pavement modified teams. The last car I worked on in the Northeast was a car owned by, you probably know him, Dennis Prunick, and Todd Zegedy was driving it back in the early 2000s. And I was one of the many crew guys that picked up their bags and went to Charlotte, North Carolina to get a job on one of these professional NASCAR teams. I did that, and I spent a lot of the 2000s as a road crew member, over-the-wall pit crew guy, fabricator, mechanic, what have you. I worked for Michael Waltrip Racing, Red Bull, Hermie Sadler, Kenny Wallace, several different teams. Well, in 2008, the recession hit, and many jobs on these race teams dried up and went away. Broadcasting and freelance driving is something I always wanted to take a stab at. I figured when I retired someday, maybe way in the future, I've admired a lot of riders like Dick Berger and Bones Dorsey, and that opportunity came to me because, well, I was unemployed. So I thought I took a crack at writing. I contacted the late David Poole, who was writing for the Charlotte Observer at the time, and he said, he gave me a preview of the way print media was going, and he said, go to the electronic media. Look at the websites that are out there reporting on racing. I did that. A few of the editors of these websites responded to me, gave me an opportunity to start writing weekly columns. I went to a Chambers of Commerce event here in the Lake Norman area in North Carolina. I met a fellow who was about to start a radio show. I joined him on his radio program one time. It became a weekly show. That show went away because of some management changes in the station, and Racers Reunion Radio, located in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, had heard the show, gave me a ring, and offered me a show of my own, not to be the sidekick, but to be the host. So the opportunity just, one job sort of led to another, and Motor Week Live began about 4 years ago, and now we broadcast every Monday evening at 7 p.m. on Racers Reunion Radio, and it's similar to your show. It's a bench racing Monday night auto racing talk show. The audience calls in, we have special guests. We talk racing on the national level, the local level, what have you. If it's got an engine and goes fast, it's fair game. And it's just something I always wanted to do when I was working on race teams, but I thought I would do it someday in the future. When I became unemployed, as many of my friends did in 2008, I took a crack at it, and I've been the opportunity presented itself, and I've been going strong ever since.
Great. Well, I'm going to look forward to having you come on in a couple of weeks, and who knows, maybe once a month we could get you on and talk some short track racing before you go on and do your show. I know you got some show prep to do. You probably already did that. And of course, I've got my next guest, Glen Reen, who's going to be coming up. Talented race car driver, runs on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. He finished 12th this past Saturday night over at the Waterford Speedboat. Bobby Santos picked up his second win in the 2014 season on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. Before I let you go, Patrick, how about Todd Zegedy getting to victory lane in the Valente Modified Racing Series Friday night over at Stafford Motor Speedway?
Fantastic. I knew it was just a matter of time before he got into victory lane. I still keep in touch with Todd. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on the show a few times, and it was great to see him get that first win in the Valente Modified Series. I knew he would be a fantastic addition to that tour, and I think that's not the last one he's going to win this year. I believe he's leading the points right now, and good for Todd. I hope he keeps the momentum going.
Absolutely. Another talented driver out there. Glad to see he got that ride, and of course he's going to be able to do 2 races at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, driving for Rob Fuller in that new LFR chassis. He also is going to do a couple of races, the 2 Modified Tour races at Riverhead for the Park family. So that's all good for Todd. And of course, Todd, we know he was the 2003 NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion. He's got a lot of wins to his credit. We know he can get the job done.
He won at New Hampshire, I believe, last September. A little banging with Donnie Leah there, I believe it was. And so he's not afraid to go for the win. And on the last lap, he'll keep his foot in the throttle to try to get the win. So modified racing, always worth a ticket at New Hampshire. That's always exciting. And I'm looking forward to that weekend. I keep track of Todd and the modified racing up in the Northeast pretty tightly ever since I moved. And they're my first love and always will be. And I keep up with the week-to-week action in the modified. Look, I'm sure here in a few weeks.
Great. Patrick, thank you for being a part of the show tonight. You and I will keep in contact, and we're going to get you back on and talk some more short track racing.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Patrick Reynolds, the host of Motor Week Live, joining us on this edition of Speedway Larney Port Radio, and we are going to make plans to have Patrick on throughout the rest of the 2014 season here on Speedway Larney Port Radio. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Glen Reen, and then later on in the evening, we're going to talk to Timmy Solomitto, who also races on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We're back right after this.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester. Visit Connecticut's first Acura dealer and find out why Shaler Acura is the state's only 14-time Acura Precision Team Dealer of Distinction Award winner.
We can get a lot of topics. We can get out there and
sales and service.
His show is out at 7 because I can take him for a whole hour.
Or certified pre-owned Acura Easy. Plus, Shaler Acura offers extended service and parts hours Monday through Thursday until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 4 p.m. for your convenience.
Good.
And now get the same award-winning service on any make or model. Visit their state-of-the-art modern facility today, just minutes from Hartford. Take exit 60 off I-84, turn right at the end of the exit. Go 2 miles on the left, or check out their great selection of new or pre-owned vehicles online.
Yep. I want to do those sound bites.
I know, yep.
You didn't get them on the line yet, did you?
I got them all in lineup right now.
He's on the phone right now?
No, I haven't done that yet either.
Okay. Before you go in the room,
yeah.
The embroidery works is a
or would you feel more first? How do you feel more comfortable in waiting till you get done with the sound bites and then call them right from there?
I could do that.
All right. So as soon as we come back, we're going to talk about how I'm going to.
Yeah, just stole for 2 minutes after the sound bite, or a minute.
As soon as we get done with Bobby Santos' sound bite,
yeah,
walk down there, because then I'll lead into we heard from first, second, and third.
Right.
Great job. And then a driver that started 25th. Saturday night, and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour for the Reen.
Yeah.
We'll come home and finish 12, okay?
Okay. All right.
28 cars.
Call Embroidery Works at 860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Well, in just a couple of minutes, we're going to get our next guest coming up, Glen Reen, who races on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He also runs an SK Modified over at Stafford Motor Speedway. This show is also being brought to you by JM Monsanto Auto Body Works. They are specialists in auto collision. All work is guaranteed. Located at 390 Lombard Street in New Haven, Connecticut. Give them a call today at 203-865-1389 for JM Monsanto Auto Body Works. Once again, specialist in auto collision. All work guaranteed. 390 Lombard Street, New Haven. Give them a call, 203-865-1389. And what about our good friend Jim Majorana from Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut? When it comes to maintenance and lawn care, who do you need, Ricky?
Jim from Jim's Lawn Care.
Out of Cheshire, Connecticut. You can give him a call at 203-272-2054. He was in the house Saturday night over at the Waterford Speed Bowl.
Oh yeah, he missed the week before because it was his anniversary there with his wife, 34th anniversary or something like that, and he said he was there early too. He said he was going to get there around noon, 1 o'clock or something that way there he had a decent parking spot and then watch the races for the weekend.
So once again, Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut. When it comes to maintenance and lawn care, 203-272-2054. Ricky, speaking of Waterford Speedball, great race in there in their support divisions on Saturday night. And of course the NASCAR Wheel and Modify Tour was on hand. Race number 4 in the 2014 season. 28 cars on hand. And Ted Christopher would be driving the number 13 car. He would come home with a third place finish. And here's what he had to say about that third place.
Still, like I said, it's still a work in progress, and each week we get better and better, and we'll see what happens over it next week.
When he was asked what the turning points in the race were, here's what he had to say.
We adjusted and it made it better, and everybody else started going backwards, so.
And you know, Donnie Leah driving the Bob Garmarino Mystic Missile number 4, he would finish second. He always races good at the Waterford Speed Bowl, and you know, Ricky, he led a lot of laps in the beginning, but he was asked what happened in the second half.
We just got a little free, and Bobby's car was just better than ours there at the end, so good job to them guys. You know, a couple things I'm not quite sure what was going on there, where he raced us a little bit, but see what happens.
He was also asked, did you think it was possible to make a run with all those cautions at the end?
Yeah, but you know, the racetrack is in bad shape, and you know, everybody's just driving into the corner and driving into everybody, you know, into each other. So, you know, I was going to make a run at Bobby there, and you know, they were just real good at the end, you know. But we'll see what happens here going forward in the future.
And Ricky, when it was all said and done, Bobby Santos would score his second victory in the 2014 season, and he was asked about the green-white checker.
We just had a great car. I got to thank Stephen Lumet, this whole team. They gave me an awesome race car. Got to thank you know, everyone that put the show on, Mr. Reuter. Everybody involved. Just a lot of fun tonight.
And he would get a shot in the back bumper on the next to last lap. How were you able to maintain your focus?
You know, we had a great car. I mean, I followed Donnie the full first half of the race. I tried multiple times to pass him as clean as could be. He roughed me up a little bit, I felt like, and I just saved it for the end of the race when it counted. I mean, there should be no hard feelings there. I got a warning before his crew chief that I wasn't going around the outside of him before the race. So, I mean, I had to pass him in the bottom because they told me I wasn't going to go around the outside of him.
And what about that bottom shot move and then the crossover move, Bobby?
Just an awesome race car, awesome team. I was working the outside on him, showing the outside, and just saving it for the right time when I had the right run to give him the run on the bottom.
And Bobby Santos talking about his victory Saturday night at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Well, we're going to be talking to my next guest who's going to be all set to go. Ricky started back in the 25th position with car number 8 and brought it home to a 12th place finish. Glen Reen is just moments away of being with us. And Ricky, let me tell you, Waterford Speed Bowl, great crowd on hand. As I mentioned, the support divisions that were on hand, the SK Modifieds, the late models, the Strictly Stocks, Mini Stocks, all put on some great racing action. And 28 cars for the NASCAR Wheel and Modify Tour.
Yeah, it's a lot of cars for the tour, especially for Glen Reen starting 28th. You know, with the tour there, once that thing gets going green, you're a half a lap behind already. As soon as one lap is out because of the distance of the cars. Okay. And so that was a good job for him to stay on the lead lap and finish 12th.
Yeah, and actually he would start in that 25th position, drove up to a 12th place finish, and he had the pit. He had a right front that went down on the car. He had the pit and came back out and you know, stayed out of trouble and came home with a good finish. We'll also talk to him about his SK Modified ride that he races over at the Stafford Motor Speedway. So once again, Glen Reen is going to join us. Matt Hirschman was on hand. He would finish back in the 13th position. But I'll tell you, we had a good run, Ricky. Patrick Emmerling started 16th, would finish 5th.
Yeah, he's been touch and go. I think that really, I think they're doing a lot of searching, you know, because they have different crew chiefs. Look at how many different crew chiefs we've had over the past few years, different cars, different teams. So they just got to start getting settled in and keep a solid team around them. I think they're just trying to find the team that they want to be around right now. So as soon as he gets a good, you know, core of guys and stuff around him, he'll be good.
And Ryan Priest would finish 6th. Woody Pitcat was 7th. Keith Rocco was 8th. Ron Uhas Jr. was 9th. And I'll tell you, Doug Colby did a fantastic job with the number 2 car throughout the evening. Got a little bit punted out of line there, and then, you know, good car control from Doug.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, it's Doug, so of course there's going to be good car control there.
Okay, so we're having a hard time getting a hold of Glen Reen, who was scheduled to join us. Actually, I had scheduled him for 6:35. We kind of went over a little bit with Patrick Reynolds, so hopefully we've got a phone call.
I did leave a message.
Okay, so we do have a phone call into Glen Reen. I want to talk to him about his 12th place finish. Also want to talk to him about his SK Modified that he runs over at the Stafford Motor Speedway. We'll take your phone calls, 203-757-1320, coming up a little bit later on in the show. He also races on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, Timmy Solomitto. I know he's looking forward to racing at Riverhead Raceway this coming Saturday night. That is the next stop for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. We'll talk to him about that and much, much more. So why don't we take another commercial break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Speedway Line Report on WATR 1320 AM.
To Shaler Acura and test drive the all-new redesigned RDX Sport Utility. Built for the size of your life, the all-new RDX reflects new kind of luxury that values the resourceful, an engine that's powerful yet efficient, technology that optimizes your time, a design that puts excellence ahead of excellence. Come to Shaler Acura today and test drive this exciting all-new SUV, or see it on the web at ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester, exit 60 off I-84.
Shaler Acura in Manchester has a long-standing commitment to quality and reliability. It's that commitment that makes finest certified pre-owned
Acura. Him to call us.
I told him to call us. Every certified Acura from Shaler goes through a 150-point inspection and comes with a 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty.
So you watch the phone lines?
Yeah, low finance rates. Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester. Call 860-647-7077 or visit them on the web at ShalerAcura.com.
If we get close to 7 o'clock here, we may just...
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com, and you can also go to SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all the shows are archived. Right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo, we're waiting back for a phone call back from Glen Reen. If not, what we'll do is if we get closer to 7 o'clock like we are right now, what we'll do is when we come back from national news, and if Glenn gives us a call, we'll take Glenn till just about 7:15, and then our next guest, Timmy Solomitto, will be joining us, and we'll talk to him about his race this past Saturday night on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour at the Waterford Speedway. We'll also talk to him about his race at Stafford Friday night in the Valente Modified Racing Series. So all in all, getting back to that race Friday night in the Valente Modified Racing Series, Ricky, all in all, everybody was happy. You mentioned that earlier.
Oh, on our team, everybody was ecstatic. I mean, from what everybody was saying and whatnot, we're actually having a team meeting on Thursday, I believe, and we're going there with all the bunch of the crew and stuff like that, just to see where we're going from here, what we're going to do about the motor, and what races we're going to end up doing the rest of the year, and then we're going to talk to Timmy and see what races he can do, I guess.
What engine do you guys race? And what chassis?
Well,
I know the answers, but go ahead.
It's a CD race car, and John Lucas Savage is the owner, and the motor, I'm pretty sure it's a Ford PT motor, and it was one of the Fords from, you know, the Tour type Ford, so it's an aluminum headed motor. So it just, like I said, just wasn't up to snuff with compared to the steel-headed motors at the Stafford Speedway.
And of course, this is the same car that back a few years ago that John Lucas Savage brought out that Ryan Priest drove in a couple of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour races.
Yeah, they have Donnie Leah drove it. Woody Pickett drove it. So he's had a lot of good guys drive the car and a lot of, you know, good finishes with the car also.
203-757-1320. We talk auto racing here Monday nights on Speedway Line Report Radio. Once again, Glen Reen scheduled to join us, and we're going to talk to him about a lot of different things pertaining to auto racing. So Glen Reen, we'll talk to him about that number 8 car. We'll also talk to him about his SK Modified, and we'll see how things are going, especially on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour with that number 8 car. I know he was pretty pumped up Saturday night at Waterford Speed Bowl, and like I said, over a 28 car field, coming home with a good solid finish there. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, what a great weekend for racing. The way the temperature was and everything else. It was warm out, but it wasn't too hot, and it didn't get too cold at night, so you know, you didn't really have to pack a jacket and stuff like that for the nighttime. So it was really one of the best weekends this year for racing by far.
Let's bring in the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett. Tom Graves will just step aside there, and we'll talk to him about his thoughts on Stafford Motor Speedway this past Friday evening. Let's talk about the Volante Modified Racing Series, which Todd Zegedy won.
Yeah, well, Todd was definitely the fastest car out there.
And where did he start?
Geez, I believe
he was up front. He was.
Yeah, he was, I think, 4th.
Yeah, he was up front, just like Teddy, and who was also good was Gooddale. He was out when at the beginning of the race. He was out front. And he had a really good car, but as soon as they got congested up in the first caution there, they moved him out of the way a little bit and said, "See ya," and then they took off from there. And you know, Keith worked his way up to the front, and you know, you're just wondering who saved what toward the end, because Teddy was leading for a while and Zeg was back a little bit, and then, like I said, that last restart with that 20-something to go or whatever it was, Zeg flipped the switch and he got to the lead, and it was checkout time.
Good field of race cars too. What was it, 33, 34 cars on hand, guys?
I think
34. I think
there was 34, but there was only 33 because Holder directed practice.
Okay.
So I think that's what it was. I think there was 34 and it ended up being 33 because Holder's got wrecked in practice or something broke on his car during the warm-ups. But I mean, I'll tell you, that was one of the best weekends for Teddy racing in a while.
Sure. Yeah, good solid finish in the Volante Modified Racing Series. Came home with a good finish at Waterford Speed Bowl Saturday night. I believe he was 3rd in the SK Modified, and then he came home with a good solid finish in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour where he was 3rd.
Yeah, so he had a good week of racing, so I'm sure the TC is pumped up now.
Of course, 3 different race cars, so that maybe things are turning around for Ted Christopher on all avenues.
Yeah, it's one of the things. It's always a work in progress because they're trying to get this ready, trying to get that ready. Everybody goes through their dips. I mean, that's like at any time. Look at Woody a few years ago at Stafford. He was the king at Stafford. Mm-hmm. Now he's running pretty good. He won the championship when he didn't win the most races like he did back a few years ago. And you know, it's just one of them things. And that's like right now, Ryan Preece is the hot guy. A few years ago it was Keith Rocco. So I mean, you just go through the swings of, you know, who's the hot guy at the racetrack right now. So if I know Teddy, he's always thinking it's his year. So you know, and I'm sure he's going to be pretty pumped because he's got 100 wins at Stafford, and I know he just doesn't want 100. It's got to be the 101 or something.
Yeah, well,
the 100 ain't sitting happy with him.
Yeah, well, someday we'll have to look into the record book, see who's even close to Teddy when it comes to victories.
Bo Gunning.
Bo Gunning.
I believe he's 47.
And yeah, and Bo's of course retired.
Yep.
And
I think Keith is actually up to 3rd.
I was gonna say, I figured Keith would be somewhere in the, you know, top 5.
I think Keith is around 3rd or 4th or something like that. I don't know. I checked it like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, but I want to remember. I remember most of the stuff, but I'm pretty sure that it was Teddy with 100. Bo, I think, was 47, and Keith was up there. Steve Chwanski got like 24 wins. You know, an older driver. There's a few guys that, you know, 16, and then it drops off from there. But you'd be surprised at how many guys that, you know, you'd think that they won there all the time and stuff like that really don't have the wins. I mean, Mike Christopher was up there also,
right,
with his wins.
Yeah.
So I mean, them guys there.
Bob Potter.
Yep, Bob Potter was up there. He was in the top 5. You know, it's something. I mean, Bob Potter, he was one of them guys where you didn't even know he was on the racetrack until the last 10 laps.
Right.
He was unbelievable. The last 10 laps was like, where did he come from? Yeah, that year he won the championship. I think his worst finish was the last race because he didn't even need it. And that was, I think he finished out of the top 10 that one race, 11th, and everything else was 8th and under the whole rest of the year. It was amazing.
Okay, we're just moments away from our national news. Once again, we're going to put another phone call while national news is rolling, and we'll find out where Glen Reen is, and make sure that he will still be a part of Speedway Line Report Radio tonight. If for some reason, if something came up and he could not be a part of tonight's show, we can just move him to next Monday night. 203-757-1320. I'm Danko, Rotundo, Baggett, Graves. We're going to be heading for national news, and then we'll be back to you in just a few minutes. You're listening to Speedway Line Report Radio on WATR 1320 AM.
Greatest hits plus local news, sports, and talk. This is 1320 AM WATR Waterford.
That was a ordinary. Fox News Radio's
Yeah. No steam. If you watch that car coming off of turn 2, he was getting eaten alive. And we put a 504 gear in it because they changed it when we went up to the thing and said aluminum-headed motors come in 504s. We went to the truck and bought 504s and put them right in the car. And we were still getting killed off the corner.
I'm a big Ford guy.
It's not that the Ford's a bad motor, it's just against those steel-headed motors. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
All right, put another phone call into please.
You know what I found out?
What did you find out?
Something nothing to do with auto racing, but about racing.
What?
Bobsleds?
Yes.
Did you watch the Olympics at all?
Yes.
Who did the bobsleds for the United States?
Secretary of State John Kerry traveled to Baghdad.
Well, no, wait a minute. I didn't know that.
Maliki promising him if he makes his government
Was it
more
BMW?
inclusive.
Will be intense.
Lies.
And if Iraq's leaders
All the four-man sleds were Cuneo sleds.
Okay.
It will be
The two-man sled that won the medal was Cuneo sled.
Okay.
BMW copied his sled. They tried to change the outside design of it.
Yeah.
And they told all the big wigs and stuff, oh, we're BMW, we're going to get a 7% gain compared to the way Cuneo's was and everything else. So like, that's what he did. There's nothing right to it, this and that, and the other thing. They brought the things to the one tunnel when BMW was ready. And Cuneo says in all the years that he's ever done it, no matter how bad the sleds were, a 1% gain was the most you ever saw. He goes, they did the thing, my sled was better.
I believe that.
You know, and all they're complaining, all this and that and the other thing, saying, oh, that's not right, this and that. Cuneo's sled was actually better. The girl's sled was a BMW sled. I don't know if you remember that at all. It was that Jack girl that was driving.
Yeah.
And she destroyed the sled, and they didn't know if they'd be getting ready. And they said, oh, the engineer from BMW, this and that.
And that's what True made.
Lies.
Right.
That was all lies. You know who fixed it? Cheech.
Cheech Carter.
They couldn't fix it. They said, you're done. They called Cheech. Cheech goes, I'll get it done. Fixed it in one night. Got the sled ready. And they won it. It was their sled and they couldn't get it ready.
Wow.
And Cheech did it.
I know. Now that you say that, I was shocked when I heard that.
And Cooney goes, BMW got paid so much money, he goes, and they paid the announcers to keep saying their name. That's all they did was mention BMW.
And one of those announcers is good friends with Jeff and Bob. And Phil Curtis from Wheeling.
They got lofted under the bus.
Hey, how many minutes we got?
We got about minute 45.
Another rookie ran pretty good Friday night too.
Williams, yeah.
Well, you need to put another phone call into.
Yeah, I know.
The number you're calling was the 4141 number?
949-4141.
4141, yeah.
949-4141.
Oh yeah, I got his name because it said, hi, you've reached.
Tape is in?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't stopped it or anything.
I mean, we did go over. I told him, 635, 640. Well,
Big deal.
we weren't that much over.
were going to be on the radio when you called them anyway. If you called them at 6:35, we would still be on the radio at 6:40.
All right. So if I don't get a hold of,
if he within 2 to 3 minutes, if he does not call us, then we're going with Timmy Solomitto.
Got it. Okay.
And just leave a message saying, you know, Gary's next. We're going to go to Gary's next guest, which will be Timmy Solomitto. For some reason, if he does not call us, huh? Yeah, it's all. Yeah, it's all good.
Just making sure.
No, it's all live. And just tell him we apologize. We were running over a little bit.
Okay.
And because you left the message saying what? It was 7:30.
No, after 7:30. I didn't specify an exact time.
Water in a bowl is quite cold.
Oh, all right, you two, man. So then we can just have them next week. Yep.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo. We did put another phone call into Glen Reen, and we're going to try him one more time. And if things don't go well in getting him this time, we'll go with our next scheduled guest, which is Timmy Solomitto. And of course, there was a nice write-up today from NASCAR in regards to Timmy Solomitto. He's the leading Sunoco Rookie of the Year candidate, I should say. Hopes that returning home to New York's Riverhead Raceway for Saturday's Hoosier Tire 200 will be the perfect opportunity to capture his first checkered flag rookie.
Yeah, the kid's a good driver. He was really sharp on the wheel. So I mean, that was I never really watched him race before. A couple of guys that I had help us on the crew had watched him race before, and they said he's good driver, this and that. And we had him race, and the kid was up on the wheel. I got to give him credit. He was, when the accidents are happening, he was aware and avoided them. So it was a good day.
And you know what? Going into Riverhead Raceway, he has turned many laps at that facility.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago he won a doubleheader down there. He won both races.
So, what better place, come into? You feel confident going in to that racetrack. And Rick, I know you've been to Riverhead before. What's your thoughts of that tight quarter mile?
It's one of them things. It's I think when the tour race is there, it's a little bit more difficult than what a Saturday night would be. I think there's so much pressure on the guys and everything else with that tight quarters and everything else. People start getting banged up a lot. And I think for a regular Saturday night event, I think it's a little bit calmer, and it has definitely the potential for good racing down there.
Okay, so it's a no-go on Glen Reen. Once again, we do apologize if you're tuned in and you were hoping to hear Glen Reen on Speedway Line Report Radio tonight. We do apologize, and we will we'll look forward to scheduling him next week on Speedway Line Report Radio. So once again, we are waiting. We put a couple phone calls in to him. We're waiting for him to call us back. So maybe something came up and could not be a part of tonight's show, but we'll definitely have him on in the future.
All I can say is the Braves dropped the ball again.
Well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, shed some light on that, Ricky.
Well, I mean, he should have been on the phone earlier, getting a hold of him, letting him know what's going on.
Well, I mean, we weren't that far off the pace there.
I can never win with you, Ricky. I'll tell you.
Well, do you ever win with anybody?
No.
Of course, Tom Gray.
I'm just trying to fit in, Graves. I'm just trying to fit in. I'm odd man out.
I mean, Tom does do a great job. He runs the board for us here. He's been with WATR for a long time, and we do appreciate everything that he does most of the time. So tell you what, we'll do.
I gotta slide that most in there.
Why don't we take one more?
95% of the time.
We'll take one more commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll hear. If we don't hear from Glen Reen, we'll go with our next guest, Timmy Solomitto. So Speedway Line Report Radio here on WATR 1320 AM, also streaming online at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all shows are archived. We'll be back right after this.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester.
You got his voicemail again?
His first Acura dealer.
His voicemail again?
Yeah. It's it, and I know it's him because it says you've reached reen Racing. You know, please leave. I can't get to my phone. Please leave a message.
All right.
Come on, Graves. You were looking all lonely over there. I had to bring you in.
I know, but
with that skin head.
But again, you know, you're trying to throw me underneath the bus, but I'm going to be holding onto the hubcaps trying not to go there. You know?
Well, that's why you have your jacket on, because you have your bus jacket on. That is your bus jacket. No, it's not. I mean, sometimes you come in the studio and it's hot.
Somebody, is that? Oh yeah,
I mean, at least they left the air on today. That was nice. That was all good.
After my time shooting my
So I'll tell you what, once we get Timmy Solomitto on, then just go back and tell Glenn.
Well, I told him, I said, if we don't hear from you within the next 2 or 3 minutes, I said, we're going to move on to our next guest. I said, and then we'll possibly get you next week. I said, you know, talk to you soon if we don't hear from you. And I just hung up, so.
Where did you guys start in the Volante?
The Embroidery Works has what you're looking for. They offer a wide selection.
I went to the microphone to say it too.
I
went 10. What an idiot.
Well, started 10 and you finished 12. I hope this is all live.
Oh, it is.
Good.
Went to the microphone.
Yeah, I don't know, like I said, I don't know, you know, maybe he was in a bad area, I don't know.
Works at 860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
And if you were not able to be a part of all the festivities at Waterford Speed Bowl on Saturday night, or even if you were, you can catch out all the action by going to sidsview.com. So if you want to watch weekly, all the action that goes on at the Waterford Speed Bowl, just check out sidsview.com. Sid DiMaggio and his whole crew, they do a fantastic job. So make sure you check out all of the action from not only Waterford Speed Bowl, they are starting to branch out and go to other racetracks as well. So make sure you check out sidsview.com. So we're going to be checking out Timmy Solomitto in just a moment or two. Hopefully everything goes through and he's all set to go. And I'm sure is going to be all set to get ready to run Riverhead Raceway this coming Saturday night, as that's the next stop for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We'll get Timmy's thoughts on that. We'll also get his thoughts on the Volante Modified Racing Series. And Ricky, was this Timmy's first ever Volante Modified Racing Series event?
I believe it was.
Okay, so we'll talk to him about that and see what he has to say about that. And I believe he's all set to go. And he is all set to go. Our next guest of the evening, he runs on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, is also going to be doing some racing on the Volante Modified Racing Series. The leading Sunoco Rookie of the Year candidate, Timmy Solomitto, now joins us. Timmy, how are you tonight? You're very welcome. Thanks for being a part of the show. And let's talk about, of course, your crew chief, Ricky Rotundo, who is my co-host every Monday night here on Speedway Line Report Radio. He was up on the War Wagon Friday night in the Volante Modified Racing Series, where you started 10th, you finished 12th. Take us through the evening.
I mean, it was the first time with John with the Savage and Ricky and all the guys, Bob Conio. Had a ton of experience on the pit box with all those guys behind me. They gave me a great car. I mean, from the time we unloaded to the future, I mean, I don't really think we touched too much. You know, it was pretty good getting a good feel for the car and all that being the first time in it. Ricky did a great job. I just wish I could have got them guys a little bit better of a finish, but for the first time, I think we did pretty good. We adapted to each other pretty well, and it turned out pretty well. There wasn't a scratch on the car, which was, you know, one of the main concerns, was just to finish and learn as much as we could. So when we come back there next month, we can hopefully run a little bit better.
Talk about how that deal all came together with you, the driver, in that John Lucas Savage owned race car.
One tour race for Eddie Whalen, and Eddie and John Lucas Savage are very good friends. And after Thompson opener for the Whalen Modified Tour, I was laying in bed one night. It was probably 9:30, and Ed Whalen calls me and says, "You got to call John. I know you don't know him, but we might be putting something together." So I said, "All right, I'll give him a call." So we went back and forth, and Eddie Whalen and John came up with a plan and put me in the car, and I'm really appreciative of what they've done for me already, and I look forward to our future together, and hopefully we can win some races.
Yeah, and I thought everything went well on Friday night for everybody just getting together and whatnot. I mean, I think somebody could have got the car a little bit tighter for you for the race, but I'll take the hit on that one.
I mean, we had a pretty good balance in the car all day long, I mean, it was kind of a gamble, we didn't know exactly how much to go, being it was our first race with those tires and all that good stuff, so, I mean, we got plenty more opportunities, and I was pretty happy with the 12th place finish to come out there first time out and feel everything out with a bunch of new guys that, I met that day. I thought we pulled everything together pretty well, and I'm hoping we can build on that and see where our future leads us to.
Yeah, I think I'm supposed to go down there on Thursday night. We're supposed to talk and see what we're going to do with the motor and see what races we could get together and start figuring out what we're going to be doing here. So I'm sure you're going to be getting a call soon.
Yeah, I talked to John today. It sounds pretty exciting, so I'm looking forward to it.
We're talking with Timmy Solomitto. He's the leading Sunoco Rookie of the Year candidate on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He ran the Volante Modified Racing Series event this past Friday night over at Stafford Motor Speedway. Came home with a good 12th place finish. And Timmy, what was it like to run the Volante Modified Racing Series machine? How do you compare that to the Whelen Modified Tour?
It was a lot different, being that there was heat races and you actually had to make it through the heat, put a little bit of pressure on, to qualify through the heat, but I knew the guys gave me a good car all day long. We were pretty quick in practice, and they gave me a good car for the heat race, so I really wasn't too worried. I put more of the pressure on myself of getting the job done and making sure that we were in the show, so, that aspect of it was a lot different, but, the track, was still the same. Just the tires were a little bit different for the MRS compared to the Tour. And the horsepower was the biggest thing. I mean, they run those steel head motors against the aluminum head, and I thought we were a little bit down on power, but nonetheless we still ran pretty decent, and we might have something in the works for maybe a little more horsepower here. We'll see.
Yeah, we're working on that there, and like you said, it was just one of the things we didn't know how the motor was going to be, but it's the motor that he has, and everything else nobody really knew until you go there. And all in all, I thought it was, like we talked about already, all in all, I think it was definitely a great day for everybody gelling together as a crew. And how about at Waterford?
Waterford, we unloaded off the trailer, and we had motor issues. We were breaking up down the straightaway. The car was only turning about 7,000 RPM. We came in to find 2 plug wires fell off them. When we went back out there, the car was still popping and spitting. Came back in, found some stuff clogged up in the carburetor. So we lost a lot of practice time, which was unfortunate since it was my first time there. But nonetheless, we got everything together. We went out, we picked second for time trial, so that kind of hurt us too. We qualified 23rd. Came in the beginning, there was a lot of cautions, and we came in and adjusted and got the car better and better. And then with about 20 to go, we were coming towards the front. I think we were passing Ryan Phil for about 10th, and I ended up getting up into the back of him. My mistake, drove in a little bit too hard and just misjudged the back of his car. Rookie error, and got in the back of him, and when he spun around, it was just so hard to load the car up. Being that Waterford, you carry so much speed in the corners. He just caught the right front on his front bumper and knocked the tail out, and we just had to ride around from there. Kind of bummed out really hard on myself about it. Unfortunately, I made the mistake, not somebody else. So, kind of a little disappointed in myself, but, not racing these tracks or not having the experience is, something that I had to learn. So, going to learn from it and hopefully move on and get better from it.
Yeah, that's one thing about Waterford. People don't realize that it doesn't look like the cars are going that fast, but you carry so much speed going around there, it's just fast, and that's like when something happens, there's not a lot you can really do.
Yeah, you're in it before you know it, things happen so fast at other tracks, but at Waterford it seems like you don't have, a ton of room to escape when you're in trouble, so unfortunately it was my mistake, and I spoke to Ronnie on Sunday, apologized to him, and apologized to his whole crew. Definitely not the way I'd like to drive, and didn't mean to get in the back of him. Definitely a mistake on my part, and hopefully it doesn't happen again, and hopefully we can learn from it and, rebound this weekend.
The next stop for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, race number 5, this coming Saturday at Riverhead Raceway. And Timmy, it's a racetrack that you're very familiar with, so the confidence level is got to be pretty high.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's always nice to go to a track that you know what you need, and you can adjust on the car, and you know what the track does at night and how far you got to go to make the car handle well, So hopefully we get a good handle on the car. We just got this on back from hitting a fresh front clip on it. So we're actually at the shop right now putting it back together, and hopefully everything clicks and goes back together just the way it came off the track, and hopefully it's just as fast. So we're really looking forward to getting to Riverhead and our home track in front of the fans, and hoping we can come away with a good top 5 solid run with minimal damage.
And Timmy, you have a couple of wins already at Riverhead this year in the modifieds that compete every Saturday night there?
We won the Richie Evans Memorial Twin 50 lap races a couple weeks back, and we've had some pretty decent runs there. Just trying to get the handle on the car and figure out the tour tires are going to be the biggest difficulty. But last September we led about 176 laps over Ryan Priest before he passed us, and we were pretty happy with that performance. Hopefully we can back that up this weekend and come away with a good solid run.
Talk a little bit about your race team on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour.
About 2 years ago, Wayne Anderson called me. I was actually at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut, and he said, would you be interested in driving for me? So I said, yeah, sure, why not? And he said, go over to the roulette table and put 20 bucks on red. If you hit, we're in. And I put 20 bucks on red, we hit. I called him back, I said, well, guess what? I guess I'm driving. So it's kind of been a partnership ever since then, and they've really stepped up everything here and given me really good equipment and an opportunity to go on the tour. So I'm really thankful for them. Wayne and Joette Anderson, they've really stepped it up and given us everything that we really need to be out there on the tour and run competitively.
Now, is it?
Eastport Feeds, the Corwin family, they stand behind us and give us everything we need to. So got a really good group of guys together, and hopefully we can just continue and maintain and finish these races and learn.
Were you able to run a couple of Whelen Modified Tour races in the past? How many races besides this year did you run on the tour?
Last year we ran about 6, a few at Thompson, a few at Stafford, and the Riverhead shows, and that was in my family's car. This is the first year that we've taken Wayne's new car out on the tour. It only has 3 races on it. One for Speed Bowl was its 3rd race. So we're still learning the new car and trying to get a handle on that. We're going to run our older car this weekend at Riverhead, being that it's such a tight bull ring, and you can really never tell what goes on there. So we didn't want to bring a fresh piece there. We want to try and save that for hopefully later on down the road at some of these bigger races. But we're learning every time we go out. The Connecticut tracks are really tough to get a handle on with how much they free up at night. So we're trying to get an equal balance and learn. It's kind of tough not having the laps that some of these guys do and going out there and competing and running as well as they do. So we're getting there, and I feel like we're making progress. So hopefully things turn around and we can run up front in some of these Connecticut races.
What would it be like to become the Rookie of the Year on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour?
Obviously, anything that you win on the Whelen Modified Tour is huge, whether it's Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Driver, whatever it may be, that's definitely a high title. So it's definitely something that we're shooting for. It would be great if we do it. If not, I'd be really happy as long as we keep running consistently, finishing the races, and showing that we can be a contender up front. If we don't win the Rookie of the Year title, at least we made, a heck of an effort at it, and we tried our best, So just going to try and put our best feet forward, and hopefully we can just keep running up front and finishing the races in one piece. That's one of the biggest things some of these car owners look at is if you finish in one piece, and sometimes if you maintain and just finish, you come away with a good finish.
Timmy, how many drivers are competing for the Sunoco Rookie of the Year honors?
There's like 4 or 5 of us going at it for it. Me, Tommy Barrett, Jimmy Zacharias, Melissa Sheffield, Dave Sazzarulo. There's a lot of good talent there. That, any of those guys can win on any given night. So, hopefully we can just keep pushing forward and keep our head down, and hopefully come away with good finishes and finish on the top.
Now, for the car that you normally drive, is that a Toyota car on the tour?
You know, pick up some time on the track, and hopefully we can, you know, just start running up front soon.
And whose motor do you have in that car?
That's a Performance Technology, a Chevy Performance Technology motor.
I just always try to get that out there, and you already said the sponsors a little while ago, so that's my area that I try to get out there for everybody.
Yeah, you always need the power.
Couple more minutes with Timmy Solomitto, who was campaigning on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He's also going to be doing some races on the Valente Modified Racing Series. He finished 12th this past Friday night over at the Stafford Motor Speedway in the Valente Modified Racing Series. And then Saturday night, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour was on him. Of course, Bobby Santos, the winner there. Timmy would start back in the 23rd position, and he would finish 22nd. And what do you think of Waterford Speedboat?
That's a really racy track, you know. I'd been there once before when I was 16 and took a letting car out there, and, you know, I didn't really remember too much about the racetrack. So when I got there on Saturday, it was kind of like learning it all over again. But I just couldn't believe how much the outside groove really works there, you know. As long as you get a tire up on the guy on the outside getting in the corner, he's kind of got no choice to give you the outside on the way off. You know, Doug Kobe taught me that in the pre-race there. We were standing out on the track and he told me, the fast guys from the back, you got to get that wheel up on the outside. So, I mean, that's really what we focused on all night, was just trying to get the roll on the outside, because it really didn't seem like there was too much on the bottom for us. So, but I just couldn't believe how racy of a racetrack it was. I mean, we passed a lot of cars Saturday night. I know our finish doesn't show it, but if anything, I learned how to pass guys at Waterford Speedboat. So hopefully we can take that there next year, and maybe if I run a Valente race there at the end of the year, you can never tell.
In a couple of weeks, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will head to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And what's your thoughts about heading into that racetrack?
That's going to be pretty cool. I mean, New Hampshire's a premier facility, you know, to go to, and you're going to be in front of all the head guys. So we're really looking forward to it, and hopefully we can come away with a decent finish. I've never been there myself, so it'll be a first for me, and going on a track that big should be pretty cool. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be a pretty big adrenaline rush, and hopefully we can just go there with a pretty good setup and get a good feel for the track, and learn the drafting and all that good stuff in practice, and hopefully utilize that in the race to come to the front.
Timmy, who will you go to? What driver on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will you go to see if they'll draft with you and teach you a little bit about New Hampshire Motor Speedway?
I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have, you know, I've leaned on a little bit this year. You know, Doug Covey's one of them, and Justin Bonsnier really, you know, helped me, and whenever I get questions, I go to those guys, and they usually help me out right away. So I'll probably lean on those two guys again. You know, I mean, they might be a little leery because I'm a rookie and fresh boy out there, but hopefully, you know, they'll teach me the reins, or at least give me a little pep talk to set me in the right direction so I can learn.
When I went there a few years ago with Ronnie Silk, he learned the most when he went out there behind some of the better drivers, you know, not better, but some of the veteran drivers, I should say, that were out there, because just the way that they lined up the corner and the way they were going through the corner was a huge difference than what he was trying to do. And one of the guys that he had gotten behind was like Todd Zagedy, and he said it was just, it changed the whole way that he went through the corner just watching him. So it's just one of the things. So it's just one of the things you just, even if you're not drafting with the person, if you can watch the way that they're going through the corner, you know, it'll adapt a little bit to you to what you have to do to get the car to go a little bit faster through the corner.
Certainly, and I like to watch a lot of in-car cameras on YouTube and stuff like that, and try and pick up on some things before we even get to the track, just to learn a little bit. You know, a lot of people don't even realize how much that little stuff helps. You know, just trying to find out where people are on the racetrack, lift points, and stuff like that, I think will definitely be a big help.
Well, Timmy, thanks for spending some time this evening on Speedway Line Report Radio. Good luck in the remainder of the 2014 season. on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour and the races that you do in the Volante Modified Racing Series. I'll look forward to catching up with you at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in just a couple of weeks, and we'll talk soon. Very good. Timmy Solomitto joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. So, Ricky, as we mentioned, a lot of racing action this past week and a lot of good racing action, whether it was at Stafford or at the Waterford Speed Bowl. So make sure you support your short tracks. And, you know, I wanted to mention this at the beginning of the show, but a longtime competitor, Jim Boniface, passed away late last week. He was a tough competitor, no matter what division he ever raced in. He knew how to win. He knew how to win championships. No matter what racetrack he went to, he knew how to get the job done. And once again, Jim Boniface passing away late last week. Our condolences go out to the entire Boniface family and friends. Speedway Line Report Radio is presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut, and also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
and Your Car, Your Choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Big thank you to Patrick Reynolds, the host of Motor Week Live. We'll look forward to having him on many, many more shows of Speedway Line Report Radio. Glen Reen, once again, we do apologize. We did put 2 phone calls into him. It was a no-go, so maybe on next Monday night, Glenn will be available, and we'll talk auto racing with him. And a big thank you to Timmy Solomitto. For Robert Baggett, Tom Graves, Rotundo, Ormsby, I'm Danko. We'll talk to you next Monday night.
Preceding has been a GMD production. Don't forget to listen to Gary next Monday night for more auto racing news on the Speedway Line Report.
Like that.
And in case you didn't catch the
they'll eat that right up.
check the shows